So, Peter,
Yes.
just wanted to find out and ask you a few questions and just say, what was it like moving from the Netherlands to Australia? I think you moved here with my mum in 1982, was that right?
No, that is wrong. It was 81.
And 81.
In July 81.
So what made you decide to come to Australia?
Oh, we were looking for a better life. We were looking for better weather.
Yep.
And see if we can have a barbecue every day.
Yeah. And why Sydney?
Oh, because they wouldn't let me go to Adelaide.
Who wouldn't?
The government.
The government?
Yeah.
Well, they only let you come to Sydney?
Yeah, I wanted to go to Adelaide, but they said, oh, there's more opportunity in Sydney.
Yeah.
So they wanted you to go to Sydney. So.
And when you moved here from the Netherlands, what did you do? Like, what was your first job? What was your role here when you moved over?
Oh, we moved into Villawood.
Yep.
And at that time, it was just immigration center. And we stayed there for 2 weeks. And then we moved to Kempsey and rented a house. And then I had a visit in the center from a painter.
Yes.
Because they knew I was a painter as well. And that is how I got my first job.
Okay. So you just said you were a painter. So can you tell us what trades that you learnt over in the Netherlands? Like, what did you come to Australia with? What skill set did you have before you came to Australia?
Oh, well, I think I had a lot.
Yeah.
So, but in Holland, the teaching system is different because after 6th grade, you go to either to high school or to technical college.
Yep.
And then you go there for 3 years. And then you learn a trade. The first year, it's everything. And then the second year, you have to apply a trade. And if you're a painter, you're also a glazier. You're also a decorator. You're a sign writer. You're also wallpaper hanging.
Yep.
And a glazier and all that stuff.
So you obviously went to technology school, you said?
Yeah.
And when you went there, you studied to become a painter, is that correct?
Yes.
So then when you did painting, you also did glazing?
Yes.
So before you decided to come to Sydney, what trades did you already have under your belt?
Oh, before we came to Sydney, I was spray painting.
Yep.
Spray painting concrete ceilings.
Yes.
With a special plaster. So that is what I was doing at that time.
But you said you did glazing as well, is that correct?
Yeah.
So what year were you a tradesman glazier in Holland, would you say?
When I was 14.
Okay. And what year was that?
After the war.
After the war. So we're talking a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
All right. So then you moved so you got your trades. You obviously met my mum in the Netherlands. You guys got married.
Yes.
And then you decided Sydney, you wanted to come to Adelaide.
Yeah.
But you essentially moved to Sydney. So you came to Sydney, you got your first job as a painter.
Yes, that's correct.
Tell me a little bit about how that went from how you've packed up everything, left your whole family, because obviously our whole family, for everybody listening, our whole family lives in Holland, correct?
Yeah.
How many sisters and brothers have you got?
I've got no brothers. I've got 8 sisters.
So you've got a big family in Holland?
Yes.
And my mum, she's got 5 sisters and 3 brothers. So you
That's
both
correct.
have 8 siblings.
Yes.
Huge family. Everybody is living in Holland at the time, and you guys decide to pack up and take off to Australia.
Yeah.
So you're on your own.
Yes.
You left everything.
Yes.
Okay. What was your mindset like in doing that? What you essentially got married, decided you were coming to Sydney and leaving everything behind.
Yeah.
Did you have a fallback? Like, did you think about, well, if this doesn't work, we're going to move back to Holland, or
No.
what were your thoughts?
If this doesn't work, we never were coming back to Holland. We were going to Canada or New Zealand.
Okay.
So,
But essentially it was...
So why would you go back if you don't have to?
So you didn't give yourself a fallback?
No.
Okay. So you've come over, decided to take the plunge. Here you go. There's no fallback. I'm going to make this work.
Yep.
Okay. Got your first job as a painter.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Oh, there's not much to tell about it because it was only about 3 weeks or something.
Yeah.
So,
What did you do after?
I went to apply for a job in a glazing and shower screen shop.
Yeah.
So, and because my English was that great, all what I could say was yes and no and how are you?
Yeah.
And that was it.
So you struggled with English for a little bit when you first moved over.
No, the people struggled with me.
People struggled understanding you, you'd say.
Yes.
So obviously that was a hurdle that you had to get over, and that would have been pretty
Yeah.
tough to get over as well. So let's talk about your installing. What you started installing shower screens. You started making them. What were you doing?
Yeah, just measuring and making them and installing them.
Yeah.
So,
And how long did you do that for?
oh, probably did that for about 3 years, 4 years.
Okay.
But it evolved from there because it was not only because this guy also was subcontracting at T&K. There was a glazing supply and fabrication company,
Mm-hmm.
and they had polishing machines and everything like that. And so he subcontracted onto all that. So then I went into the factory as well and worked the polishing machine. They call them an AIDA.
Yeah.
And then we also did hand polishing and with all the pumice and the old belts.
Yeah.
My tabletops by hand, polish all the edges and everything like that.
So it was really like a glass processing. So you've gone from measuring shower screens.
Yeah.
You started doing that you said you came in 1981?
One, yes.
So let's say 1981 you started, or was it 1982?
No, 1981 I started.
Okay, so you started working in Australia in the glass industry in 1981.
Yeah.
Originally you were measuring shower screens,
Yeah.
and then that sort of evolved into working in a glass processing plant.
Yes.
So would you say in 1981 you were working in a glass processing plant?
Yeah.
All right, so that was 43 years ago, or almost 45 years ago.
Yeah.
So your journey in the glass and aluminium or glass and window industry started 41 years ago in Australia.
Yeah, you can say that, yeah.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
So tell us then, what evolved from working in that glass factory? Like for our audience that are listening today, we're getting a bit of an understanding that you've just got married, you've sold everything that you had, right, in Holland, or you packed up the belongings that you wanted to take and you took off to Australia with the mindset that I'm going to make this work, right?
Yeah, of course.
You've now gone into, you've had one job, didn't really work out as a painter, okay? You've gone straight into, I've got to get another job, so you've done that.
Yeah.
And now you're in this glass processing plant. You've gone from measuring shower screens into glass. Tell us what evolved from there. How long were you at this? Was it T&K, were you saying?
No.
No?
That was called Metro Glass.
Metro Glass, yeah?
At Chester Hill.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So what happened from there? Give us some backstory to where did it lead to? What was your role and what were you doing?
Oh, from there, I think I was there for about 5 years. And then I went to another company who was doing a lot of replacement glass and also normal glazing. So then I went there every day and had a truck for the day. And then also you got a pager, and then sometimes on the weekend you were on call-outs. And then you had to board up all the breaking, and then the next day go back and measure it up.
Yeah.
And then replace it all.
So then you went from shower screen measuring to glass processing to now doing replacement glazing. And how long did you do that for?
So, but quite a few years.
Yeah. And then what did you do after that? Like, what was your next sort of job?
Then I went to apply for a supervisor job at T&K.
Mm-hmm.
And then all what you had to do is go out and measure up and measure all glazing jobs.
Yeah.
And then take it all back to the office and give it to the head honcho. And then he had to allocate all the glaziers and do it that way to do all the work.
So is this measuring like shop fronts, windows,
Yes, everything.
frameless glazing,
Skylights.
skylights?
Yeah. Garage doors and everything like that. So
Yeah. And then how long were you at T&K for?
maybe 3-4 years.
Okay, so we're sitting around 1984, 1985 now,
Yeah.
roughly. What did you do after that?
After that, I went to Namel Aluminium, and they only had an aluminium company, but they wanted to start a glazing division. So then I got a job to be the glazing manager, and just had to set everything up and get glaziers and measure up the jobs, what they go out and do and install.
Yeah.
And then one of the jobs was on the Powerhouse Museum, when it was still a big furnace. And I had to, there's a lot of circle windows in there, we had to do all of them. So that was quite challenging.
So now you're somewhat production manager, scheduler, management type role, and you're now sort of going out, you're measuring jobs, you're delegating the work, you're getting your workers in and scheduling that type of work.
Yes, we did.
And what was that like back then? Because obviously we know that doing it these days compared to what it was, how it was used to be done, is significantly different. Like the technology in today's market is certainly a lot different. How was that done? Was it paper? Was it verbally? You're telling people how? What was the process involved in that back then?
Oh, you just had to get all the work, and then at a few stages we didn't have enough people to do all the work, so you had to get friends from friends, and then just pay them all cash money, and get them to work for you.
Yeah. And how at that time was your English then? Like, was it a lot better now? Like, we're talking, you've been in Australia now 4 years, yeah?
Yeah.
How was your English and being able to communicate with people at that time?
Well, it was not too bad, I think.
Yeah.
So, and of course, even now I've got a big accent, so
Yes.
my accent was a lot bigger.
You can you can work with the accent, right? But being able to effectively talk and communicate with staff, essentially what you're doing, that's obviously challenging if you can't really speak too much English, right?
Yeah, but you were just looking for words and then describe it a different way.
Yeah.
And then everybody could understand you, so there's no problem.
So,
but also the thing is, with safety was not an issue because there was no safety.
So back then in the 80s, mid to late 80s, the safety factor was nil to nothing.
Yeah. So
no gloves?
No.
No gauntlets?
No.
Safety boots?
Oh, yeah, safety boots, but that's all.
Fluoros?
No. But I mean, even the thing was like when you were on a scissor lift or a boom lift, no license, nothing. Anybody could drive them. Because at the Powerhouse Museum, we had 10-meter high boom lifts, but on the 4-wheel drive.
Yeah.
Because all the ground was just mud and everything like that, so you had to drive through there. And then when you lift glass up, you just had to make some hooks up and put them in the front of the bucket and lift them up that way.
So it was pretty old school.
No, that was not old school, that was new school.
So that was technology back then. We've got cranes now and sucker units and safety gear, etc.
Well,
back then it's just hooks on the side of a scissor lift and away you go up 10 stories.
There were cranes there, but I mean, that was not for glass or anything like that. So, and then the glass itself was all special glass and came from G. James in Queensland.
Yeah.
So you had to make all templates for the top half and everything like that because it is all circles. So, yeah.
So from there, working at the Powerhouse, where did you go now? So how long did you stay at T&K there? Oh, sorry, was this T&K or was this another company?
Another company.
Another company. So how long did you stay here?
Maybe 2 years.
Well, so we're now at 1987, roughly?
No. Because I stayed 4 years at Metro and then 3 or 4 years at, it was then called Woodbridge Glass.
Yeah.
And then I went to Namel.
So now we're early 90s.
Yeah, say early 90s.
When Penrith Panthers won the grand final.
No, that was in the late 90s.
In that time, you came here in 1981.
Yeah.
1984, my sister was born.
Yes.
1985, I was born.
Yes.
And you were still, would you say you were still trying to find your feet at that time? In regards to English speaking, getting a stable job, knowing what you wanted to do?
I always had a stable job.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was never a problem.
Why was that? Why do you think that you always had a stable job?
Well, because I wanted to work.
So you had a strong mindset of working.
Yeah, because if one job didn't work out, you go to another one.
Where'd you get that from?
I don't know. It was
You've always had that?
I always had that, yeah.
You think that you might have got that from your dad? You think that you got it from in Holland, your upbringing, or it was just a mindset?
The way I've been, because even in Holland, I only ever had 2 jobs from 14 till 26.
Yeah.
So, and then when I had one job, that was when my dad worked. And I said, I'm going somewhere else. He said, why? I said, I can earn more money there. Oh, yeah, but it will never be as good as up here and everything like that. And because they just had a thing from, you don't change jobs. If you have a good job, you don't change it, even if you can earn more money. So that is just the mentality that I had. So then I just changed job and never looked back.
And then you'd have to say that obviously coming here to Australia from Holland would also help you have that mindset to, head down, bum up, right? Like work hard.
Yeah, but I covered it.
You covered what, your bum?
Yeah.
What'd you cover your bum with?
The fork.
So obviously you've come here with the right mentality, right? That you need to work and you're doing that for your family and to provide.
Yeah, of course.
And you're just not going to let yourself give up. You're not going to throw the towel in or quit or, you have to turn up every day. That mindset, I'd like to think that you've also contributed to filtering down and passing on to me, because that's obviously part of my strong mindset too now.
Yeah.
I don't give up. Over the years, we've been through a lot of challenges together in business, and we don't give up. And I think, for something, I'd like to say thank you to you for passing that on to me. And that's why I sort of wanted to ask the question, where you got that from? How did you just all of a sudden say, I'm just not going to give up?
Oh, I don't know. And probably a long way down is that when I was working with my dad, he always said I was not fast enough, not good enough. And then he just tried to be harder and quicker.
Yeah.
And then one day I just had a shit with him and I said, mate, I'm faster than you. So stop trying to push me, because you can't push me any harder, because you can't even keep up with me.
Yeah.
I think that is where it came from.
Yeah.
So, and that's it.
Well, that's great, because I'd like to say in all the years that we worked together, I think we probably started working together when I would have been 12 or 13, maybe, in the school holidays.
Yeah.
You'd started taking me to work with you, and I was working with you. And then probably at the age of 17, 18, it became more prevalent that I was working with you more often. I think at one point in time we started working together behind Luna Park at the apartments there. I think that was really when I started working with you full time.
Yeah.
And I'd have to say that you were extremely great in showing me the way how to do things, and I would have to say that you probably learnt that obviously from your past. It didn't work with, whatever happened with yourself and your father, but you certainly done a good job in teaching me, and you never came across like I wasn't good enough. You're always making me learn and do things correctly, and I think that's great. Yeah. Now let's go back to, obviously we're early 90s now. I do know that you had a massive, we talked about safety, okay?
Yeah.
I know that you had a big incident with your arm. When did that happen? Was that early 90s? Was that when you were already self-employed? Were you working for somebody else?
No, because after Namel, I went to Marshall Aluminium, because there was a guy at Namel, he was in the aluminium, he was the manager there. And then he went to another company. And then a few months later, he said, you have to come here because there's more opportunity for us. So that is when I went over to the other company.
So now we're mid 90s, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we probably worked there for about 2 years or something like 3 years. And then we had the idea of working for ourselves.
Yep.
So then we started doing jobs.
You and your partner?
Yeah.
That became your partner at the
I
time?
became a partner, yeah.
Yep.
And
that was when that so you were working somewhere else and you started doing some jobs on the side for yourselves?
yes.
Right. Is that sort of mid to late 90s?
Yeah, late 90s, I think.
What were the first jobs that you guys were doing?
No, it was mid 90s, I think.
Yep.
So at one stage we had so many jobs and not enough people. And then we started to employ more people and more people.
So go back for a minute. So you were working for somebody else. You were doing a few jobs on the side. When did you take the leap to start your company then?
Probably after 2 months.
Okay. And what was that? What was that mindset like for you? But also, my mum, your wife at the time.
Yeah.
Well, she's still your wife. But I mean, for you guys at that time, you're now going to leave your stable job,
Yeah.
right? And you're going to take a leap of faith.
Yeah.
Well, you just once again the same mentality as when you came over from Holland. It's you're now going to do this, and you set your mind and everything to that, and that's just what you're going to do.
Yeah. No, the whole thing was like we had enough work.
Yeah.
So we just went to start for ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we just worked our asses off and just did it.
And what? So you started with 2 people.
Yeah.
And what did that grow into?
Oh, we started in Ben Street.
Yeah.
In a little factory. You know yourself, when we started later.
We started there too, so there's a little bit of deja vu for you back then when you and I first started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we moved to Glazing Street.
Yeah.
And then from Glazing Street we moved to Minsterbury somewhere, I think. We had a few factories that we moved to.
But how many people, I mean, you were talking about 2 people, small factory.
Yeah.
Where did it evolve to? Like what, how many people did you end up having working for you?
One stage we probably had about 24 people.
Okay. Massive factory?
Oh, not as massive as yours. So,
but a big factory?
A big factory.
24 people?
Yeah. But most of the people were working on site. We only had about 4 people inside the factory.
Yeah. How did you manage that? Difficult?
Oh, no, it wasn't that difficult.
Yeah.
But I mean, at that time we didn't have V6 and everything like that, so you had to make all the drawings yourself.
So you're doing all your fabrication sheets by hand?
Yeah.
Wow.
Did everything by hand. And I wrote it all down and then wrote a list down from the lengths and what pieces to cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is how we did it.
It's pretty old school.
Pretty old school. We had no punches.
Yeah.
Did everything by your hand pounds and with a nail and a hammer.
Yeah.
In a sample.
Yeah.
And then you just had to drill all the holes.
Okay.
And then you had to screw them all together. So
very time consuming.
it was very time consuming, yeah. But the thing also was like at one stage we were growing too big too quick.
Yeah.
So and then we had a lot of money outstanding when we had to get in from the builders. And we still had a lot of bills to pay. And that just didn't work out together. So
yeah.
That is just a thing you have to watch for in the future, that you don't grow too big.
That you plan.
Yeah.
That you start to look at, where you're sitting at now, what's coming in the future, where your cash flow and managing all that type of thing, and make sure that you're managing your debtors.
Yeah.
Which is what I can say is now it's extremely easier to do that these days because we do have technology for that. Yeah. Where back then you were doing everything by hand, so that became challenging as well, right?
Yeah, it was very challenging, yeah.
Did you guys used to write in a diary, like who owed you money or how that worked? Was the invoicing system, was that just pieces of paper and writing that as well?
Yeah, you had to write everything down. You just had a separate book, and that was your invoice book.
And then what, you'd fax it off? Did you have fax back then?
Yeah, we had faxes, yeah. So you just fax that off and that's it. So.
And then just ring them up and use the phone that you you turn the dial and have to wait for it to catch up. Was that the type of phones you had back then?
Yeah, that was still the phone we had. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then also in the late 80s, we just had the first mobile phone was like a big suitcase in a brick.
Yeah.
So
Did you have one of them?
yeah, we had one of them, and we had a phone in the truck. So
What, like that? Like a little brick suitcase in the truck?
No. That was just worked in the truck, and then just had the cable coming out and the handset, and that was all.
Yeah.
So.
And what, you were ringing and driving at the same time, or?
No, you're not allowed to do that.
You weren't allowed to do that back then. Well, you're not allowed to admit to be doing that, but they certainly didn't have phone cameras back then, did they?
No.
If you're still doing fabrication sheets on a piece of paper, they're definitely not doing the blitz cameras back then, are they?
No, they don't.
All right. So with the phone in the truck, was that like the latest and greatest technology for you guys back then when that first came out?
That was, yeah.
And how did that change the industry for you, or change what you were doing in business back then? How did that, because if we go and talk about the new things that start to come in that changes how we operate and makes things easier, what did that mobile phone do for you guys, or what did that truck phone do for you guys back then?
Oh, that was not only the mobile phone, we also had a two-way system that you had to get a special license for. And then there was a two-way system only with two companies on the one line.
Are we talking about two-way radios?
Yeah, two-way radios, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then at least you could contact them when they were driving to a job, not to go there or go somewhere else or do a pickup on the way. So that made it a lot easier, because otherwise everybody came back to the factory and then you had to send them out again.
So not everybody would have had a mobile phone.
No.
So pretty much...
No, we only had a mobile phone in the truck, and we had the briefcase. That was all.
The briefcase mobile phone.
Yeah, the briefcase mobile phone, yeah.
So people would give us a bit of an understanding how you'd schedule your day. So everybody would meet at the factory first thing in the morning?
No.
Or you'd talk to them the day before?
Yeah. On the day before, you just go past the building site, talk to the guys what they have to do. And then they just go there the next day and do what you ask them to do.
But you're employees, right? So they would meet you in the factory and then you'd delegate the work to them? Or
No, you just tell them to go to site.
How did you tell them? Ring them up when they're at home, or?
Yeah, when they're at home.
So
on the home phone.
On the home phone, you'd ring him up and you'd tell him the day before, all right, you're going to go to this site?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you just meet them on site with all the paperwork.
Yeah. The hand-drawn paperwork that you did?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just want to get a bit of an understanding, because technology has taken us into a totally different space right now. You know that.
Yeah.
Obviously, when we started in business together, I would say I was at the age of about 21. All right, I'm 39 this year, so that's 18 years ago. I was doing all the V6, which you said before. So
the V6 wasn't even there when you started.
It was. It was, yeah. So I was doing all the paperwork, and fabrication sheets were coming out on V6. It was only really starting to become prevalent. We'd have to print, because remember, I'd be upstairs, I'd do all the paperwork, I'd print, and then I'd be downstairs and I'd be waiting because the printer's going.
Yeah.
But now you're doing paperwork, and essentially you ring the guys up in the afternoon at home, hey, meet us on this job site, and you're going to them with your hand-drawn paperwork.
Yeah.
And then they do the job. What happened how did you then, if you weren't on the job site, how could you communicate with the guys at the time?
You couldn't.
You couldn't. You just, so.
You were just hoping that they were doing the right thing.
Right.
Oh.
That's challenging, isn't it?
It's very challenging. But
So,
I mean, you have to trust people, and that's all what you have to do.
of course. So, all right, so now we fast forward. We know some things didn't go too well for you there. You've now gone back out on your own as an installer, as a subcontractor. I believe I started then working with you. I would have been around the age of sort of 18 full-time after I did my HSC.
Yeah.
So we're going 21 years ago. So we're talking 2001. So from mid to late 80s, you were sort of working for some companies up until probably mid-90s, you said, and then sort of from mid-90s onwards for a period of time, you were working for yourself. Now you've gone back out installing. I've gotten a job working for the company you were working with.
Yeah.
How were things then in the industry? Like obviously you've gone through some massive changes in the last 15 years. How were things then?
In what way?
Well, obviously we spoke about just then about not being able to have phones.
Yeah.
You would have now had a mobile phone in 2001.
Yeah, we had a mobile phone.
Yeah, it would have been scheduled on jobs, would have been a lot easier. Did you have paperwork then when you were doing jobs to install?
Yeah, we had paperwork to do.
Yeah, they're no longer hand-drawn or?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But it was the late 90s and we had mobile phones.
Yeah.
So because I still got my same phone number, that's what I had then. So.
Nothing changed?
Nothing changes.
Did your mindset change at all?
Yeah, of course it does.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How was your mindset then in regards to going back out and working for other people again after you'd worked for yourself?
Oh, that was all right because it was still on hourly rate.
Yeah.
So the longer you work, the more money you made.
Yeah.
So that is what you had to do.
So now that was sort of your driving force.
Yeah,
was
of course.
Provide for your family, right?
Yeah, of course it was. Oh.
So let's fast forward a little bit. Obviously, you helped me get a position as an estimator through Johnny Waterson. He was working at another company called Razorback, and he brought me on. I was only 19 years old, so we're talking 20 years ago, right? For me, I had already been in the industry with you for before that, probably about 5-6 years, working whether it was on holidays or me starting when I was 16 in Bradnams in the office, and I rang you up. I'm like, look, I'm not getting paid that much. I need to get a better job, and you obviously helped me get that first job, right?
See, there's the same attitude I had.
What's that?
I don't get paid much. I just have to get another job.
So you have to get another job. No, well, obviously I got that from you, right?
And that's what you do.
So now I've got the first estimating gig. I didn't know what I was doing, right? So 19 years old, I've gone from working in a factory to working in an office to now working in another office at a higher position as an estimator, trying to bring in work. So now I'm learning this software program. It's called V6, like you mentioned before. Yeah. You guys didn't have that before. You had to do everything by hand. Now we have a computer software program where we can enter frames in to make the frames. It spits out the costings for every element. We can add labour, etc. That's pretty much the estimating software, as well as fabrication sheets, cutting sheets, which once again you would have had to do by hand. So this is sort of sped up that process now for us, right? So I remember when I first started estimating, I didn't quite understand what I was doing. Yeah. So it was quite great for me to be able to ring you. Hey, Dad, I'm supposed to be quoting the job. What am I looking for? And you'd obviously relay that back to me because you already had that experience. Yeah. So fast forward a little bit further, I wasn't happy in the position there. You're now at another company, and you get me on over there to help build this company up, right? Yeah. So we're working now in Wetherill Park, still working together. So I think from the age of 17 till I think I would turn 21, we were working together, but not together in the same company, as in I was working for your company or we were working in our own company together, but we were working for the same company together, right? So it starts on, I then went to a job and something had happened in this particular company, and I rang you and I said, shit, Dad, what am I doing? What do I do now? Like somebody's taken the rug from underneath my feet. I'll never forget that phone call because pretty much from there set up where I essentially has worked up to set up where I am today, right? Yeah. Hey, Dad, job's no longer there. What do I do? I'm going to this meeting to win a project. What did you tell me?
Oh, I just thought that is a good way to start for ourselves again and go and win the job, and we do it ourselves.
All right, so...
Yeah, and we had nothing, but we just did it.
That's your mindset again, right?
Yeah,
just go for it and work as hard as you need to work to make it work, right? Yeah. So I won that job on the day,
Yeah, the golf club.
the golf club, Campbelltown.
Yeah,
I'll never forget that job.
I know.
That was the first job that started for both of us, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then it was, all right, so now we've got this job. We don't have a factory.
Yeah.
Dad, what are we going to do?
Just make it in the backyard.
But we didn't,
Yeah.
because you always said to me, we're not going to be like those other guys that are just making it from the backyard and cutting corners. We don't do that, right?
Yeah.
So you essentially went out and found a factory.
Yes.
Where was that?
The one at Dunhaven Circuit, Ben Street.
Bench Street. Where
St. Mary's.
where you originally
Started.
started.
Yeah.
Same complex.
And we had the same building, the same factory.
Right.
So because it was empty.
So you started your first company in 90?
Late 80s or early
Okay, so
90s.
late 80s, early 90s, you started in the same exact factory
Yeah.
that you then went to get for us to start again.
Yes, it was.
How did that feel for you?
Oh, a little bit proud that I could have the same factory, and then we started there, and that was good.
Yeah. And so how did you find starting with us together? You're with your son now, right? So
Yeah.
you've already had a business. You've already worked on your own. You're now going to go into business with your son.
Yeah.
How was that for you?
Oh, I was very proud.
Yeah. Then I guess, when did you know that partnering with me, your son, was the right step? And how did you balance the family life? I mean, we're working together, right? So now we're not only just working together, we're now in business together.
Yeah.
So how did you balance that?
I just did. Yeah. How else can you say it? I just did. I just balanced it.
Well,
So,
what did you used to say to me? Work's work, home's home.
yeah.
And what don't you bring where?
You don't bring work home.
Okay, so that's how having that mindset made you helped you balance that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And when did you know going into business with me was the right decision?
Oh, from the day you rang me up and you said you didn't have the job anymore, and that you went to a job to quote it. And that is when I knew it was the right decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, just do it.
Did you regret it?
No, never.
That's
But-
obviously
But we didn't start together because it was my company and you worked for me.
that's right.
But later on,
Yes.
so when something happened to me, that is when you took over.
Yes. So what was the early day? Okay, so when I took over, well, I actually became a director of your company, right?
Yeah, that was in Glossop Street.
It's in Glossop Street.
Yeah.
So now we've
Because
got,
from there we moved to Glossop Street.
okay, so Bench Street was I think it was only 60 square metres. Yeah.
It was
Tiny.
4.5 meters wide, I think, and 11 meters long or something.
Yeah. Small factory.
Yeah, small factory, yeah. But we did it,
We did it.
yeah.
Why
Because-
did we did it?
Because we had a factory and we were uninterrupted by making stuff.
And we had no choice.
We had no choice. We just did it.
Why did we move to Glossop Street? What happened at the time? Like, we were doing work and what, we started winning more work, or?
Yeah, we started. Well, you started to win more work,
Yeah.
and then the factory was just too small.
Yeah.
So, and we done a lot of replacements as well, and glazing. And the factory was just too small, so then I went looking for a bigger factory, and then we both found it in Glossop Street. So,
Yeah. So now we moved to Glossop Street.
Yep.
Okay. Still your company at the time, but now I think this is when I sort of joined as a director of your company,
Yeah.
right? Because it was, in case something happened to you while we're working, I can continue on, right? So,
Yeah.
but from day one we were partnered.
Yes, of course we were.
You know, whether and it was me quoting and you being the lead installer, manager, and sort of you really took me under your wing to teach me how to do different steps, right?
Yes, yes.
So now we move to Glossop Street and we start doing work. From my memory, we were there for about 12 years together,
Yeah, we were there a long time.
a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
So I don't think we were in Bench Street for that long though, were we?
No.
maybe 6 months.
Probably 6 months. Yeah.
So we outgrew that straight away.
Yeah.
Then we moved to Gloucester Street, and we started to get some machines because we needed, we had a saw. We started to get all the things that we started to do, and we were really specialising in just the schools and shop fronts. Would you say that?
Yeah.
So we started doing all those type of work, and we really specialised in that. And at the time, the market wasn't, flooded with other guys doing the same thing. So I think we found a niche, and we sort of went for that straight away. Would you say that?
Yeah. Well, I just can remember that you just wanted to do bigger jobs, and I said, no, they're too big.
Well, there was some.
I was too scared to do big jobs.
Why was that? Because of the past?
Yeah, because of the past and everything like that. So, but I'm glad you put your foot down and that you went bigger and bigger. So that was good.
So, all right. So now it's starting to get a little bit scary for you. We're working in Gloucester Street. I think we then started to employ 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
So now it's sort of, let's say there's 2 to 4 of us in the company, and I'm also starting to look for these other jobs. Now, I remember I'd come on site with you during the day and we'd work, and then in the afternoon or night I'd be in the office quoting as well. So it was quite challenging, right? I really had to do a lot of work to try and get us that work. Yeah. So...
And Mum was doing the paperwork. So.
My mum was doing the paperwork at the time. So we really had that family, business. I mean, we still do, right?
Yeah.
So then we started to I think back then it became a little bit challenging for us to get work because now the market started to be a bit saturated.
Yeah.
So we were passing up on a lot of jobs in regards to the things that were just straightforward with the tooling that we had. We needed to expand, right?
Yep.
So we're there for 12 years, and I'll never forget the one job. It was over $500,000. It was out at Penrith. It was a big private school. Just came to you and said, "Look, Dad, I've won this job." Because after I would say. Probably it was a good couple of years that we were going back and forth, right? Talking about, I want to price this job, I want to do this job, I want to do this bigger job and, have this. For me, it was a bit of job security, right? If I land a big job, we've got X amount of work to carry on for.
That's correct.
And you were the whole time going, no, don't do that. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. How was it for you when I said, Dad, I'm doing it? How did you feel then at that time? You had to sort of...
Had to let go.
Had to let go.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do, is it?
I lost.
But you sort of had to give up something to let it take us on another journey. So you had to have a bit of blind faith in me, right?
Yeah, of course I did. But the whole thing was with the smaller jobs, at least the jobs were there, It was a quicker turnover than the big jobs.
But for me, I guess it was a bit challenging because that meant that I had to spend more time in that office continually trying to stay ahead of us and then work during the day. And that sort of was the tough period for me. So, all right, so we win this job. We win this big job at Penrith. We're making frames. We were also at one time making frames for somebody else, right? We were fabricating for another company because we got a little bit quiet, right?
Because we were quiet, yeah.
Yeah, so we're doing a bit of subcontract work. They'd get their material delivered. We're in this, I think the factory was about 195 square metres at Gloucester Street, roughly.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've gone from 60 to 195, say 150, 195 square metres. I remember fabricating out in the car park. I remember having loads of material just stacked in the car park car spaces, which a few times we got a few letters from Strata for. So, now I come to you, hey, Dad, we've won this big job. We need to move.
Yeah.
What do you do? What did you do?
What I did?
Yeah.
I just went on Facebook and looked up factories for rent. And there was a factory for rent that don't have a circuit. And I said to you, we go and have a go. And we have to go there. So you and I got in the car and we went there. And then we spoke to the owner, and the owner said, no, it's not for rent. It should have been taken off. and he had all his trucks parked in there and everything like that. And then he got talking to you, and I don't know what you've got, but he liked you, and he said, "Oh, well, for anybody else, a factory is not for rent, but for you it is for rent, but you have to take it for 3 years." And you said, "Yeah, no problems." So that is when we got a factory.
So would you say then I had a bit of a gift for the gab back then? I probably still do, but I mean,
I don't know what you call it, but I mean, you're too charming sometimes.
So all right, so so you found the factory, because I'll never forget that day, right? You sent me a message, hey, let's have a look at this. We go straight over there, because I knew in my mind, shit, in the next month or two, I've got $500,000 of windows that I've got to make and get installed. We need a bigger space.
Mm-hmm.
So we find the factory, we sign up. John, he's an amazing bloke. I'm still renting another factory from him today. Top guy over there. Was, really gave us what I would say is our first big shot.
Yep.
Right? That one job, one deal changed everything for us together and for the company where it sits today, right? That sort of propelled where we are now.
It certainly did.
So, okay, so now we've moved to, we're moving the stuff now, massive space. So we were 60 square metres, now we went to 195 square metres. Now this is 350 square metres. So essentially it was double what we're in.
Yeah.
Right? I'll never forget the day we walked in there together and I was like, holy shit, this is huge, right?
Yeah. Plus you had an office upstairs.
Plus we had an office upstairs, which we made one last time. I think at Glossop Street, we actually made that structure, didn't we?
So yeah, we did.
We had no lunch shed in Glossop Street. We had no office upstairs.
No.
I remember making it with you out of timber and then built our own windows and essentially put an office there, right?
Yeah.
So now we've got an office, and now we've got a 350 square metre factory. So now we move. We didn't last there that long, did we?
Where?
At that factory, that 350 square metres.
Yeah, 3 years.
3 years.
You lasted 3 years.
We lasted 3 years.
Yeah.
But it filled up pretty quick.
It filled up pretty quick, so you wanted to move to another factory.
Yeah. So
and in the meantime, then John built some more factories down the back.
Yeah.
Because he only had that all for storage and there was nothing there. So he built 4 factories down there.
Yeah. And now he's built.
And then you had a big factory with 2 big roller doors.
So, and that one.
And an overhead crane.
And that one there was 750 square metres.
Yeah.
Right. So double again.
Yeah.
So now we're working away in 350 square metres. We were there for 3 years. We started employing more people. By that time, you really let go with me quoting jobs, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
You were...
Because I didn't have a clue what you were doing. But I mean, that's all right.
So now we're sort of working and working on these jobs. And I still think that at that time, we were working extremely long hours too.
We did, yeah.
So that's the early days. I would say then that was when it was CVD, correct?
Yeah.
We moved into, and that was when sort of CVD started, was in that first factory. So what back then were the early days like at CVD? Like if you were to explain the company or what we were doing and who we had working with us at the time and, what were some decisions and turning points in the company which defined its success. Explain the company back then. We're going back almost 15 years ago. So tell me, what was the company like for you then?
I know we had a lot of people working, but then also you employed some more people in the office, and then a lot of safety things got implemented. And we had some guys who wanted to work, but then we also had some guys who just wanted to take the cake out of it. So then you had to get rid of them. And there was a little bit of a turmoil with some of the blokes.
Yeah.
And at the end, you had some good blokes. So that is why you moved on with them.
So we would have learned a lot back then, right? So now we're really talking that safety was sort of emphasised.
Yeah.
About 15, let's say 13 to 15 years ago, safety became a massive thing now in the industry, right? Construction industry. And then obviously that, had to filter down to all staff, right? So then we faced some challenges with, employees, workers. Would you say that they essentially didn't have the best intentions, or they didn't have the mindset, or what we sort of had to see the vision on where we wanted to go? Would you kind of say that they might not have, they were happy to take the cake, but they weren't happy to sort of put in the effort and the time and the work towards where we were going?
Yeah, because they got a little bit lazy.
Yeah.
And they just wanted the easy jobs.
Yeah.
And that's all what I wanted, I think.
Then we move, right? So, all right. So then we started doing more and more jobs, right?
Yeah.
More and more school jobs. So now we've really specialised in that. There's difficult school projects, private and government buildings.
Yeah, but we also worked away. We went down to Bega, did a few jobs there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Regional New South Wales.
yeah, and they had a big hospital at, was it Lismore?
Yeah.
We had to pull all the windows out and put all new windows in.
Yeah. So we're really diversifying. We don't just do the school projects or the shop fronts anymore. We're now doing those plus the difficult jobs and working away.
Yep.
And
what we did.
Would you say that because we undertook those type of projects that other people didn't want to do, right? That helped build the company up?
It certainly did, but you did work for those builders already with some other jobs, because you also done Eastern Creek when they were putting new buildings in there.
Mm-hmm.
And we were working upstairs with all the double glazed windows there. And then from that company, you had a hospital. And because they just had faith in you.
Yeah.
And because you done a good job, the work was done properly. And that is why they gave you the other jobs as well.
So obviously having a good brand, a good name, doing
good understanding and everything like that.
and doing the good work. And I think one of the biggest things that you passed down to me was obviously, if you say you're going to be there at Monday at 7 a.m., you're there at Monday at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
There's no excuses, right?
No.
You never left. You never gave yourself an excuse.
No.
You turn up regardless. And I think that's one of the biggest attributes that you've sort of pushed onto me that I carry, that I've learnt from you to continue every day in that path, right?
It is, yeah.
All right, so now we're doing these other jobs, we're doing regional work, and now we've moved. We're starting to burst at the seams. In 3 years' time, we're now grown CVD, and we're now needing a bigger space.
Yep.
We moved to 750 square metres. Right, I walk in there with you. What's the first thing we said? Wow. Look at this. Well, it didn't take us long to fill that up, did it?
No, because when you moved in, it looked still empty.
Yeah.
So even coming from the other factory. But that went quickly.
It went quickly.
Yeah.
Because I think we signed on there for 3 + 3 years.
3 years as well, yes.
But we moved before the 3 years was up, didn't we?
I don't think so.
Oh, when the 3 years was up, we moved.
For the first factory.
No, so the first factory was
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Then we moved to the 750, which is the one we're talking about right now.
Yep.
And we walk in there and say, holy shit, wow.
Yeah.
We then outgrew that factory too, didn't we?
Yes, you did.
We did.
Okay, we did.
You say me, but this is a partnership, right? So we've built the business. Yeah, okay. You might have started to let go, and now my vision has taken over, and we're growing.
Okay, if you're two people on the tandem, right, driving along the road, the one on the back is not doing much because he's tired, and the front one is pedaling very fast. So who's doing all the work then?
Okay.
Because after that as well is because with John, he was a good landlord, or he still is, a very good landlord. And then he said to you, I'm going to build another factory because the block of land next to me is his as well. And there was an old building there, and he was going to tear it down and build a new factory. And he said, if you want it, you can move in. So he specially built that for you.
And what did you think about when I came to you and I told you that?
Oh, shit.
Why?
Why? It was so big.
Yeah.
I don't even know how many square meters it is now.
So the
1,200.
internal factory space is 950 squares,
Yeah.
floor space. But the block of land in total, I'd probably say is close to 2,000 square metres.
Yeah.
So we've gone from when we first started, we moved to Glossop Street.
Yeah.
You didn't want to quote some certain jobs because it got too big too quick on your previous experience being in a partnership with somebody that didn't work.
Yeah.
Now you've sort of fast forward and gone, holy shit, what's my son doing? Tell me what's gone through your mind.
Oh, a lot of worries and a lot of pride.
Yeah.
I was tickle pink, what you're doing, but I'm still worried. It's the same mindset as that. I didn't want to go to the bigger jobs, but then you're doing it anyway and it works. So that's good.
Yeah. So
but also, even from Glossop Street, you're in a factory surrounded by other factories. And with the first two factories on Dunhavet was the same thing. You had to have the space with other people. You don't have your own yard. But now you went to this bigger factory and you got your own yard and nobody else is part of it. So you can use it to your own advantage, and you're doing it because you're outgrowing this factory too.
yeah.
But you just have to be careful that, do with what you have. Because even if you double the workforce, you don't double your profit. That is always the saying. So, and that is so.
Yeah, and I will never forget you telling me that as I've been as the company has been growing, and you give me that advice, and that's certainly what we're doing now is we're trying to work on in the business. I'm actually taking myself out of being in the business and working on the business, which I've never been able to do, and we're working with the space that we've got, right? So, all right, so let's go back to the 750 squares. Why are you laughing?
What do you want to go back for?
I want to talk about that for you because
I just want to move forward.
All right, so in this period of time as well, right? You then, you actually did you retire? Did you go to retire and move to Mudgee before I moved to 750 or after?
Before.
So right, so here I am coming to you. You've already moved to Mudgee, and I'm going, hey Dad, I want to move to a bigger factory. You've really let go now, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, I had to. I had no choice.
Yeah. So I'm just riding on this bike now on my own, right?
Yeah.
So would have been scary as a dad, was it?
A little bit.
Yeah?
Yeah.
As a partner, was it scary?
No.
Why is that?
Oh, it is always, when you look from the outside, it is always a different view, but I mean, you hope everything goes well. And so far, everything went well, so that's good.
Yeah.
And also, another thing I always taught you say, honesty takes the longest, because you were coming to me as well before and saying, oh, we don't win this job because people go there with an envelope and everything like that. And we always said, we never do that. And then at least with that, the people trust you more. And that is what I'm doing now.
Integrity and honesty, right?
And honesty.
And that's pretty much the fundamentals of our business, right?
Yeah, it is.
And we never bought a job or we didn't try to be enticed by saying, hey, we'll give you this and you give us this job, we'll give you $5,000. And I remember those conversations we've had.
And you don't cut corners.
We don't cut corners. I think that was probably one of the biggest things that we faced, and the challenges that we face is.
And you were fighting for that, and you were fighting against all the other people. So
changing the mindset of the builders, where they would essentially go for the cheapest guy when you know full well that what they've been priced is not to code and doesn't comply with the standards. So a big thing for us was to try and educate builders and architects. I mean, I still remember calling you when I was 19 and we were talking about a project that a builder said he was going to build this job a certain way. And I've come back and said, no, you can't do it like that. It needs to be done like this. And they wouldn't listen to me back then because I was only 19, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And we had that issue. I faced those challenges back then.
I know a song about that.
What's that?
Only 19.
Only 19? How does the song go?
It's about the war.
Oh, is it? You're not that old, are you?
No.
So we've built the business, we're growing the business. You've now retired, so I've fully taken over this vehicle. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's all right. From a push bike is a vehicle. Okay, good.
Well, we've gone from a tandem push bike, right?
It's a semi-trailer now.
Semi-trailer now. Driving a semi-trailer, I've got my license too, by the way. Driving the semi-trailer.
Not for the semi-trailer.
No, just for the HR. You got the semi-trailer. You've thrown the keys to me, though, haven't you?
Yeah.
You're sitting in Mudgee now looking from the outset.
Yeah.
Right? And you're going, holy shit, what's he doing? Right? And we're building this, we're building the brand, we're building the company on honesty, integrity, and not dropping our pants for jobs because you can't offer a level of quality and ensure a project gets completed correctly with the right specified materials. Because I think that's another thing that we were both really big on. I think in the early stages we were going back and forth. A lot of people are swapping out specs, right? And we're not. We're just we're sticking to this is what they want, this is what we'll give them, while other guys were going, this is what they've asked for, but we're going to swap this, and this. Now we're cheaper, we're going to get the job. So building with integrity was a really big thing, right? So what's the biggest lesson that you've learnt in working in the glass industry? In all the years that you work. So you really stopped... I wouldn't say that you've stopped working right now. I'd say that you're probably on hiatus, but every now and then you come back and you still put some yards in for the companies, for CVD, right?
Yeah.
So you're still not 100% out of the industry. But in the last, let's say 40 years, yeah, what are the biggest lessons that you've learned in the industry?
Just to be honest.
Yeah.
And you always tell the people what they're going to get.
Yeah.
And that is what you do. Because like you said before, there's a lot of backyarders. And they just cut in corners and do everything else. But also, and it is not only in the glass industry, I think it is with everything. You always take the longest way. If you're honest and want to do the right thing. And then you're fighting up against other people, but you just have to persevere with that and do it, and it will always come out at the end.
What are the biggest challenges that you've seen in the industry since you first started, and how did you adapt? So obviously being in the glass industry, so we're talking about the industry specific now. What are the biggest changes you've seen in the industry since you first started, and how did you adapt?
Well, the biggest changes is just the codes and everything like that, what I bring out.
Standards?
Just all the standards and the changes of the glass and everything else like that. And you just have to adapt, you just have to go with it.
Just have to learn them.
Yeah, you just have to learn them, and that is where you came in and you do all that. So for me it was a little bit easier because you were taking care of all that. But sometimes I said, oh, you can put this in, you can put that in. And you said, no, you can't because the standards are changed again. So that is the biggest thing in the industry.
Is staying up to date with the codes.
Yeah, you have to.
And the standards and industry trends and everything that's happening.
Yeah, you have to.
What advice would you give to people who are currently facing major challenges in businesses and their career? What advice would you give to somebody who's facing a challenge in their business or their career right now? What would you say to them?
I don't know.
Well, what would you say to yourself if you're facing a challenge? That's what you'd say to somebody else, right? What do you say to them? Don't stop?
You don't stop, because if you stop, you're standing still.
And if you stand still?
You die.
That's exactly what we say, isn't it?
Yeah, because you have to keep going. So, and that's what it is.
So it's
And nothing is for nothing, because it's always hard work. And that is what you do.
so keep doing the hard work,
Yeah, you keep doing the hard work,
and it pays off.
and it will pay off. And if you've got the right people in place, then it will be a little bit easier. But to get the right people, it takes a long time. You know that yourself. So, and when you finally get the right people, you have to keep them happy, and they make it easier for you,
And do the right thing.
and do the right thing.
So your advice would be do the right thing,
Yeah, of course.
work hard,
Yeah,
and don't stop.
yeah.
Especially don't stand still, because if you stand still,
You die.
you die.
Yeah. That's it.
The reason why I emphasise on that, because I think you and I have talked about that particular phrase
Yeah.
a lot in our business partnership together, in our journey. And I remember saying it to you when we first needed to move,
Yeah.
and second time we needed to move,
And
even
the third time.
even the third and the fourth time we needed to move. And this is obviously, so now we're in this bigger factory, 750 squares, 950 squares, 2,000 square metres overall. So it's quite a large operation there.
Yeah. Plus you got a showroom.
Now we've built a showroom.
Yeah.
So for anybody that doesn't know, we've got a beautiful showroom in Caringbah. So we've got a factory in Western Sydney, built a showroom in Caringbah. I think I rang you up and said to you as well, I need to do this. What did you think when I did that?
I said no.
Why did you say no?
It's just too much for you, you know. But as it turned out, it was just a genius move, because you get people out there, everything is built exactly the way it is in the outside world. Like you built part of a house in there, you put all the big doors in there, put all the big windows in there, all the different quality. It's beautiful. And I think it pays off for you.
And when I first signed the keys, well, before I signed the keys, I said to you, if we stand still,
You die.
we die.
Yeah.
So I
you-
can't stand still.
So you're moving on.
So moving on. So then when we finally built the showroom and you come down and have a look at it for the first time, before we built the showroom and you saw the space, could you see what I could see at the time?
No.
Okay.
'Cause I didn't know what you had in mind, so you tried to explain it, but then I understood a little bit of it, but it turned out beautiful,
Totally different.
totally different.
What did you say when you first walked into the showroom when it was built?
When it was finished,
Yeah.
just 3 letters. Wow.
Wow. You like to use that word, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Because it is wow, you know. But I mean, I know you had an architect designing it and everything like that, and I'm just very proud of you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being proud, but also thanks for inspiring me to do that. I would like to know, okay, what's one piece of advice you wish somebody had given you when you first started in business?
I don't even know.
Take a chance.
Probably the same advice I give you is saying from don't grow too quick, you know, build it up steady.
Yep.
And make sure all the paperwork is in order and everything is done. It's the same with contract with the builders. You know, make sure everything is done properly. So that's it.
Make sure you got the foundation set properly.
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, look, Dad,
Okay.
thank you very much for coming in today and having a chat with me on the podcast.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate you coming in, even though
I wasn't happy with it.
you weren't happy with it, but you're here, and obviously I've got a vision and I want you to be a part of that.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I really appreciate that.
No worries. You're welcome.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Right.
Love you.
Love you, mate.